Two clubs offered Rodri the same contract, word for word, the same money. He signed for one of them and refused the other, and the one he refused was Real Madrid, which means the most expensive midfield transfer of the summer was not decided by money at all. On the 16th of August 2026, Manchester City accepted an offer from Barcelona for Rodri, 60 million euros fixed, 16.5 million more in add-ons tied to what he wins in Spain, a 4-year contract. Total package, 76.5 million. He was 30 years old. He was the reigning Ballon d'Or winner, and a month earlier he had been named the best player at the World Cup as captain of the Spain side that won it. But the number is not the story. This is. According to reports in Spain, Real Madrid and Barcelona offered Rodri effectively identical personal terms. Same length, same money, the two biggest clubs in the country, matching each other line for line, and he chose Barcelona. Real Madrid had wanted a holding midfielder all summer. Reports said personal terms were close. Reports said the club had gone as far as deciding which of its own midfielders it would sell to pay for him, Aurelien Tchouameni, to Manchester United for around 80 million. None of that happened. Rodri said no, and every one of those moves fell apart with it. So if the money was the same and the clubs are the same size, and one of them had already started clearing space for him, what actually decided this? The answer is not a number, it is a phone call. Every headline gave you one number, 60 million euros. That number is real. And it is also the smallest part of what this transfer actually costs. Once you add the things nobody puts in a headline, you are not looking at 60 million anymore. 60 million euros is what Barcelona pay Manchester City. It is the number in every headline, and it is accurate. It is also, by some distance, the smallest line on the invoice. Add the 16.5 million in add-ons, and the fee alone is 76.5. Then add the part nobody puts in a headline. According to Diario Ace, Rodri's salary at Barcelona is around 15 million euros net per season. Because of Spanish tax, that costs the club roughly 34 million gross. Over 4 years, that is about 136 million euros in wages alone. Then the agent commission on a deal this size. Put it together and the reported total is around 210 million euros. Let me put that in perspective. Barcelona's transfer record is under 150 million. Their reported all-in commitment to one 30-year-old midfielder is comfortably more than they have ever paid for anyone. And this is the thing almost every transfer story gets wrong. The fee is the deposit. The wages are the mortgage. When a club signs a player on a long contract, the fee is the part that gets a graphic on television, and the salary is the part that decides whether the club can sign anybody else for the next 4 years. 60 million bought the signature. 210 million is what it actually costs to keep it. Now hold on. This is Barcelona, the club that spent 3 years unable to register players it had already signed, the club that had to sell parts of itself just to name a matchday squad. So how does that club suddenly pay for the best midfielder in the world? For 3 seasons, Barcelona were the most public financial cautionary tale in European football. Players signed and then unable to be registered. Assets sold in advance to raise cash. A slice of future television income here. A piece of the club's own production company there. A squad list submitted to the league and rejected more than once. So how does that club spend 200 million on a midfielder? Not by getting richer, by getting smaller first. Ronald Araujo went out on loan to Liverpool. Ferran Torres left for Paris Saint-Germain. Those 2 moves did not bring in a spectacular amount of money. That was not the point. The point was the wage bill. La Liga does not stop you spending because you are poor. It stops you spending when your squad costs too much relative to what you earn. Every euro of salary you remove is a euro of headroom you get back. Then the second thing, Barcelona returned to what the league calls the 1-to-1 rule. In plain terms, for every euro that comes in, a euro can be spent. During the bad years, they were on a fraction of that. Most of what they earned was swallowed by existing wages and debt before it could reach a transfer. And the third thing has not happened yet. The rebuilt Camp Nou is due to be finished around the turn of the year, and a full stadium at modern prices is a very large revenue line that the club is already counting on. So the honest version is this: Barcelona did not solve their finances. They cleared just enough room at exactly the right moment and then spent it all on one player. This is the part that should worry Real Madrid, and it has nothing to do with the fee. Because when the offers are identical, the decision comes down to something much harder to buy. And the reporting on how Rodri made that decision is brutal reading if you support the other club. Here is what the reporting says happened. Rodri's first question was not about money, it was about timing. He had been linked with Real Madrid for years, and he wanted to know why, after all that time, the serious approach only came now. The second thing was worse. Reports in Spain say Florentino Perez was not fully convinced about signing a 30-year-old, not opposed, not enthusiastic, convinced enough to authorize an offer, not convinced enough to be the one making the case. And a player can feel that. When a club that size hesitates, the player hears exactly what the hesitation means. Now compare that with what came from the other direction. Hansi Flick phoned him personally. Reports describe that call as the moment the decision turned. Deco called, Joan Laporta called. Players already in the Barcelona squad, several of them his own Spain teammates, many had just won a World Cup alongside, made it clear they wanted him there. One club sent an offer, the other club sent people. And there is a football argument underneath all of it, which matters more than the flattery. Rodri is a positional midfielder. He is not an athlete who covers ground. He is a player who decides where the ball goes and when it slows down. That kind of player is worth more in a team that keeps the ball than in a team that counters. And under Flick, Barcelona are the team that keeps the ball. So identical money, one project he could picture himself in and one he had to ask questions about. Real Madrid did not lose Rodri because they were outbid. They lost him because they were outwanted, and those are very different failures. One costs you money, the other tells you something about your club. Two clubs lost something here, and only one of them is talking about it. Manchester City lost the player their entire system was built around. In the same summer, they lost the manager who built it, and Real Madrid lost something they will not admit to losing. Start with Manchester City because their loss is the easier one to measure. Rodri played 298 matches for City across 7 seasons. He won 12 major trophies there, 4 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, 3 League Cups, and the Champions League. He won the Ballon d'Or while he was there. Whole seasons were built on the assumption that he would be the one holding the middle of the pitch, and City are losing him in the same summer they lost Pep Guardiola. Guardiola stepped down in May. Enzo Maresca was appointed at the end of June on a 3-year deal. So the new manager arrives to find that the single most important player in the structure he is inheriting has just left for Spain. City did spend a club record £115 million on Elliot Anderson. But a club record for a different kind of midfielder is not the same as replacing the one who left. There is a reason people spent 2 years asking whether Rodri could be replaced, and the honest answer for 2 years was no. Now Real Madrid, officially nothing happened. Sources say the club is not chasing an alternative. The squad, they say, is 95% complete. They are, and I am quoting the reporting here, not crying about it. But look at what quietly changed. Tchouameni was being sold to fund Rodri. Now Tchouameni stays. Camavinga stays. Valverde stays. A club that was ready to break up its own midfield to make room for one man is now keeping all of them. Not because it changed its mind about them, but because the man never arrived. That is not a squad that is 95% complete. That is a plan with a hole in it and no public admission that the hole exists. So that's the case for now, the case against, and it is a serious one because Barcelona have just committed more money than they have ever committed to one player for a 30-year-old whose last 2 years look very different depending on which part you choose to look at. First, his age. Rodri turned 30 this summer. A 4-year contract takes him to 34. The reported wage commitment does not go down in year 4 when he is likely to be worth less than he is today. Clubs sign long contracts to spread the fee across the accounts, and that same length is what traps them later. Second, and this is the real one, his knee. In September 2024, Rodri ruptured his anterior cruciate ligament. He missed 53 matches. He was out for 236 days. He came back for a 7-minute appearance at the end of that season, and the season after the comeback was not a clean return. He had a setback in the summer. He was taken off after 20 minutes against Brentford. Across that whole campaign, he completed 90 minutes twice. His minutes were managed all year, and his manager was open about the recovery taking longer than anyone expected. Now hold that next to the other fact, because both are true. At the World Cup, a few weeks ago, he was the best player at the tournament and captained the winning team. So which Rodri did Barcelona buy? The one who could not string 2 full matches together for 18 months, or the one who was the best player on earth in July? Barcelona are betting 210 million euros that it is the second one, and they are making that bet with money they only just got back in a stadium they have not finished paying for. If they are right, they have the best holding midfielder in the world for 4 years, and Real Madrid spend those 4 years watching him. If they are wrong, this is the contract that puts them back where they started. Either way, one thing is already settled. When the money was identical, Barcelona picked up the phone and Real Madrid waited to be chosen. That is what the 210 million actually bought.